YouTube, what is going on? Today we are going to be going over what E1s from the current slate of banners that have an official end date are going to be worth getting. So this is going to be including in this current patch. Obviously we have Himeko Nova, we are going to be having Sparksy, we also have Donghung PT, Evernight, and in the second phase the Himeko Nova will not be going away, but the rerun banners will go away, and instead we will have the likes of Seridra, Anoxa, and Aventurine. So let's go ahead and go over what exactly their E1s do, and we will determine a rough list of like which ones would be important. So with Himeko, we can see right here that the number of extra assist skills used from the talent additionally increases by 1, while in the protocol verdict state reduces the number of ultimate uses required to launch an additional assist skill by 1. So it makes it so instead of having 2 ultimates triggered by anybody in the campaign protocol verdict, instead it is just going to be 1. So it makes it a lot easier in order to get that additional assist skill to activate, and the talent additional increases by 1, so instead it go from 2 to 3. So a lot more damage from Himeko Nova at E1. And with the decimation state reduces the charge required to launch assist skill by 3 when Himeko Nova launches assist skill. It's very much similar. Instead of the normal amount, which off the top of my head I don't really remember, I think it's 9, I want to say, it'll drop down to 6. So again, just more overall damage, more ease of play in order for Himeko to do a lot more damage. Sparksy E1 is going to state that when the aha instance ends, so this could be when the generic aha instance for all your relation character ends, or even it could be when after Yao Guang uses her ultimate to cause an additional aha instance to trigger. That's very important to keep in mind. You are going to be gaining 5 punchline, and for every 1 punchline owned, increases all type res pen for all allies by 1.5% up to a max of 15%. So Sparksy's E1 isn't necessarily like Himeko's where it does a general damage buff for the individual character. What it does is it is going to allow for more overall damage for the entirety of the team. Very, very important to have that distinction. Moving over to Donghung PT, we can see that his E1 states when he uses his ultimate, it's going to recover 1 skill point and increase the bond mate's all type rise pen by 18%, lasting for 3 turns. This obviously is when you target an ally to increase their stats and their attack. What that happens is that is now the bond mate. So once you use the ultimate, not only will you be regenerating 1 skill point, you will then allow for them to increase their all type res pen by 18%, lasting for 3 turns. That is exceptionally good. Moving over to Evernight. Evernight E1 arguably is one of the best E1s in the game. And the reasoning why is that when she's on the field, if there are greater than 4, 3, 2, or 1 enemy targets on the field, all memo sprites deal damage equal to the equivalent amount of additional enemies on the field of their respective damage respectively. As you can see there, kind of a tongue twister, but as you can see, if there is 1 enemy on the field, then they deal an additional 150% of their original damage respectively for memo sprites. That is very, very important to know because of the fact that typically on a remembrance team, right, you're going to be having the memo sprite wise, you're going to be having Evie, you are also going to be having Ika, and you are also going to be having Netherwing. And technically Cyrene does count as a memo sprite because you summon herself on the field. Kind of a weird thing there, but technically that does work. So now let's go ahead and look at the actual individual characters that will be coming out in the second phase. So again, we will be having Seridra, we will be having Anoxa, and we will be having Aventurine. Let's start with Seridra. Seridra's E1 states that the character with the military merit ignores 16% of the target's defense when dealing damage. If merit is upgraded to peerage, that is when you get the 6 stacks of military merit to allow you to enter that peerage to additionally activate another skill. When a character additionally ignores, okay, then the character additionally ignores 20% of the target's defense when dealing skill damage. When Seridra uses her skill, regenerates 2 energy for the designated ally target. So what that means, you're also going to be increasing their energy, how much they get back. The additionally ignore 20% of the target's damage. To me, this words that on top of the 16%, you will then be ignoring 36% of the enemy's defense. But keep in mind, this is only for the character that you have peerage on. So that's very important distinction to emphasize. Moving over to Anoxa, jumping over here. His skill, his E1 is after using the skill for the first time, recovers 1 skill point. When using his skill to hit enemy targets, decreases the target's defense by 16%, lasting for 2 turns. So the very first time you use his skill, right, is that you will then go ahead and recover the 1 skill point. Now, to me, this is worded in a sense that if it's just the first time, I'm guessing this is the first time upon activation of consuming a skill point. Because of the fact that how Anoxa works, he's able to have multiple instances of using his skill. To me, this was just worded that the first iteration of that subsequent action, like let's say you are in a state where you are able to use his skill and he has 3 times in that particular instance he uses his skill. The very first part of his turn that he uses the skill, guess what, you recover that skill point. So you have essentially 3 instances, hypothetically, right, of skill damage. No skill points are consumed, which is very good, and you ignore the target's defense, which is very, very good. And then you can also see here that when using the skill to hit enemy targets, it's important to note that the S is there so that if it is multiple enemies you are hitting, guess what, the next 2 or next 1, next however many he's able to perform skill damage wise, it's going to be ignoring 16% of that enemy's defense. So that is very important distinction to know. Now, Aventurine states here that it's going to increase crit damage by 20% for all allied targets with the fortified wager. What that is the shield that he generates for everybody on the team. Everybody who has it will then have their crit damage increased by 20%, which is very good. After using the ultimate, provides all allies with the fortified shield whose shield effect is equal to 100% of the one provided by the skill, lasting for 3 turns. Essentially, it's just more shield. So out of all of these characters, who do I think is like on the scale of 6 to 1, because we have 6 total characters that this is going to be affecting? Honestly, the very bottom is going to be Aventurine. I just don't think that his shield in particular is as strong as it once was. We also have other characters who provide a little bit more. Yes, having the additional 20% crit damage is very nice, but because of the fact of how characters are working, how the synergy wise and everything, and other relics coming out as we progress further and further into the game's lifespan, I definitely think Aventurine's E1 just isn't as valuable as it once was. Now, next, honestly, is probably going to go ahead and be probably Himeko's. No, actually, it's not. It really isn't. It's going to be Seridra. And the reasoning why it is going to be Seridra, and while yes, having all this is extremely good, overall, I just don't think that her value is as high. Being able to ignore enemies' defense is extremely good, but you have to keep in mind that as we continue further and further down the game's lifespan, HP inflation is becoming a thing, and also because of the fact that we are getting increased overall enemies' toughness. Enemies' toughness is increasing exponentially as well. Recently, a couple updates ago, an example would be enemy's toughest would have been 200. Now it's like 260, 280. So it's going up in conjunction with HP inflation. So I think while Seridra is a great character, I just don't think that she is as valuable as some of the other characters. Next is actually going to be Evernight, and I know Evernight is very much loved, very good character, don't get me wrong, she's exceptionally good, but because of the fact that it only works with other memo sprites, not just generic other characters, kind of restricts her to a specific team composition. Well, and yes, technically that team composition is extremely good. I just don't see the overall value of that team unless we get more and more characters coming out with memo sprites. And yes, technically we are going to be getting Robin Sombrerito coming out, who does have memo sprites and who does provide a lot to other characters in terms of ignoring enemies defense, increasing crit damage. You need more memo sprites who actually deal damage as well, and her songbirds just aren't going to do as much as like Envy or Netherwing or even Ika. Outside of those three instances, I just don't think her E1 is particularly great in that fashion. Next, it is actually going to be Himeko Nova. And while I'm like on the fence if I want to get E1 because I'm working towards pity, if it happens, it happens, right? I think I might just save my own pulls. I'm at 72 pity. I just don't think that her E1 is as valuable as these other characters. Yeah, it allows her to do more damage, but in terms of overall value, I think you can get more out of the other characters that we will talk about. So I just think that, and it's kind of it might seem kind of hypocritical because the next character we're going to be talking about, but I just don't think that her E1 is particularly valuable. If you want to get the E2, obviously get the E1, but if you're going to stop at E1, you can just stop there. Next is actually going to be Anoxa, and the reasoning why I think he is actually higher above Himeko, even though he also deals damage himself, is that you are allowed in the possibility of getting 6 instances of dealing damage, and every single one of those hits is going to ignore 16% of the enemy's defense. So, and while I did also say in lieu of Evernight, you know, more enemies are getting toughness, more enemies are getting more HP, being able to have that many instances of his skill damage ignore enemies defense is just really, really good. And you can also make the same argument for Seridra. Well, she allows your teammate to ignore defense. Yes, that is very true, but having multiple instances only occurs when you get into the peerage, whereas Anoxa getting his E1 allows his skill, which you, like I said, you can have up to 6 instances of activating the skill, also while not even consuming a skill point, is extremely good. Next, it is going to be Don Hung PT, and the reasoning why I think he is number 2, being able to increase the all-type res pen for the specific character with the bond mate. While yes, it is limited to one character, where some of the other stuff is not necessarily as limited, like Evernight, because of the fact that you're going to have multiple memo sprites ideally. Obviously Seridra, you can pick whoever you want. Don Hung, just innately his value is a lot higher than all these other characters we have talked about, arguably maybe not so much with Himeko Nova, but because of the fact that you're able to provide a consistent shield, the ultimate allows you to recover a skill point is extremely good, so that allows for team-wide utility, and then being able to increase all type res pen, like I said, I think is more valuable than ignoring enemies defense. And then finally, number 1, I do think it is going to be Sparksy E1. Sparksy I think is exceptionally good. It is amazing for any elation team, especially the fact that if you have a main elation DPS, heck, even Sparksy herself can be run as a main elation DPS, but if you have her in conjunction with Silver Wolf level 9s, or if you want to end up getting Aventurine Wave Flare, having this this Eidolon is extremely good. It allows you to generate more punchline, especially if you have her in conjunction with a Yao Guang. Another instance of the Aha instant being able to accumulate a total of maybe 10 within a cycle is extremely good just from her E1, absolutely nothing else. And whenever you consume a lot of punchline, and for, you know, whenever it increases, because of the fact that her Thrill, in conjunction with her consuming skill points, allows for all the Elation characters on the team to routinely have this max ignore 15% of the enemy's resistance. I think that is extremely good, and because of the fact that we are going to be getting more Elation characters in the game, I will have a video about Pearl and about Nihilix coming out very, very soon, so keep an eye out for that. But I definitely think Sparksy E1, out of the current available characters that you will be able to summon on phase 1 and phase 2, not including the collab banner, I definitely think Sparksy is the most valuable E1 you can get.